to Illinois and other parts of the country. As we manage the property, one of our primary objectives is to make sure that Terra and the foundation does not lend its name to causes that aren't consistent with the overall philosophy. And because Terra is such a premier organization, and everybody who's familiar with this organization knows the principles that it stands for, everybody wants Terra to identify with their cause and mission. And so we debate those causes often. There are many causes that we support, but not publicly. There are others that we do support publicly. But the reputation and integrity of Terra's name is a significant strategic value for the organization. In 1987, Ms. Bryant acquired Newman Towhead in Henderson Island. I'll have a slide of those in just a minute. But both of them were across the water and had to be accessed by barge primarily. There was a land route that created a significant additional traffic time to arrive at the property. Those two properties were roughly about 10,000 acres. Newman Towhead was about 4,400. Henderson Island was about 6,600. And when we talk about acreages on this property and on other properties that the foundation operates and manages, you have to understand what river stage you're talking about, because at high water, there are not many acres, and at low water, there are a lot more acres. In 1988, now remember we talked back earlier about the Mississippi Conservation Easement Act in 1986. In 1988, Ms. Bryant helped form the Delta Environmental Land Trust Association. And that's noteworthy because Delta became the first 501c3 organized for the specific purpose of holding conservation easements in Mississippi. And there were other organizations. This organization and others that hold these easements are known as donee organizations. And in the early stages of conservation protection in the United States, conservation easements were very rigid, and you had to be careful in constructing the legal documents because the manner in which you constructed that document would vest entire rights in the donee organization, and if you did not expressly reserve it, some conservation organizations in the country took a very narrow view of what you had left to retain. And so their philosophy was if you didn't retain it, you conveyed it. And so Delta was formed as a flexible alternative and a contrast to that philosophy. Now, we saw this slide earlier with Bill. One of the other really notable developments, and I've got to say, in the interest of time, there are a lot of people who have left their mark on Terra over the years. And just in the interest of time, we're not able to identify all of them. But from my perspective, our identification and association with Bill has been a substantial contributor over the past 30 years to the growth and success and the reputation of Terra. Now, Bill was modest when he told you earlier that John Tully called him and asked him if he would like to be introduced to Ms. Bryant. Bill was the first wildlife biologist hired by Anderson Tully. And Anderson Tully is the largest, at the time, the largest private forest steward company in the country. It's now been dwarfed by a lot of the TMOs and other timber management companies. But Bill was a tremendous addition to the Terra management program up here. And Bill, what is that we're looking there? They look like turnip greens to me.
Yeah, I'm actually picking right.
You see the Bill is a small frame guy, so I'm sure there's going to be some cornbread associated with it. In 1990, broadening the reach of Terra and in an effort to expose conservation to the youngest generation, to perpetuate conservation principles and education, Terra started what has now become one of the premier youth programs in the country. And it started with just one youth camp, and for many years that's all we had. Now, earlier today, we heard that number ranges as high as 10, but generally when we do our budgeting every spring, we plan for 7 to 9, and if we can accomplish more, that's better. Now, those numbers of campers range from 25 to 30. So you can see that's 250 to 300 young people coming on Terra annually to be exposed to everything that Terra has to offer in terms of conservation, ecotourism, and education. And at one of the camps, we had a board meeting, I forget, a couple years ago, up here at the track range, and a Black Hawk helicopter landed. So it must have been Gilbert National Guard camp for that one. Tremendous, and these children just can't say enough about them. They video the programs, they take them home. It's word of mouth about this program has just really grown exponentially over the years. You see the classroom facilities here, and then you see, this must be a shocking program to see the different fish species. What is that, far snowshoe? You ever?
Yes. And that's Wildlife Fisheries and Parks. They do a half-day segment every week for the county.
So I told you about Newman Towhead. This is Newman Towhead here on the upper part, and Henderson Island is down to the south. So to access Newman Towhead, you had to cross this little show cart body of water right down here in the bottom right-hand corner. Until I guess, Bill, that low water crossing, where is that it up? Is this it right here?
Just down a little bit more.
A little bit more.
Yeah, right in there.
And that took, right, maybe it's right here.
That should be it there.
That obviously took a 404 permit to the Corps of Engineers, and took us a little while to get that approval. The next significant milestone event, and I think one thing that I've observed over the past 30 years is that each time we've made a change, we've had just a tremendous upgrade, and it's based on the skill sets that the organization needs at the time. But Gilbert came to Terra, had been in and around Terra prior to this time, but actually became the executive director. He now serves as the president of the foundation. And Gilbert, is that Bob?
Yes.
All right.
Is that Bob on the left?
Yes.
No, this is not Gilbert. This is not Bob.
I didn't shave.
This slide shows in 1992, we established the conservation